But first off, talk to me about this a little bit. What were things like before you jumped in the program? What were you dealing with? What kind of struggles did you have? Things like that.
Well, for several years, I was kind of bouncing around doctors trying to figure out what was going on with me because I was continuously gaining weight, was having a very hard time losing it. And finally, the word PCOS was kind of thrown around between a few doctors. And finally, in this past August of 2021, I was diagnosed with PCOS. Also was told I was overall insulin resistant. At the time, I didn't realize that I had diabetes that ran in my family until I started understanding the history. My family wasn't very transparent with the medical history. So once I did find out that, it definitely started to make a lot more sense. And I was also diagnosed as pre-diabetic at that time. So I kind of bounced around between nutrition plans, various trainers and nutritionists, and was really having no luck. Everything was very extreme, wasn't very sustainable, and I wasn't really getting answers. And I was just continuously getting more and more laundry list of health issues that were arising from having insulin resistance, PCOS, and being pre-diabetic.
Gotcha. So basically, it's a lot of health problems in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I literally came with a binder to my doctor's appointment of everything I was eating, all the supplements I was taking, everything I've tried. I just was so desperate for someone to tell me what was wrong with me, as well as it just seemed like every month there was something new I was experiencing. I was kind of experiencing the extreme side of things, from loss of feeling in my fingers sometimes, to dizziness when my blood sugar would drop, to just pains everywhere. And so it was one thing after another. I was basically the walking list of, if you Google pre-diabetic or PCOS, I was experiencing all the symptoms. My body is very sensitive. So I was very desperate for answers. And that's when I found you.
Awesome. So, I mean, that is pretty extreme to go to the point where like neuropathy is associated with high blood sugar and loss of the feeling in your fingers, your toes, stuff like that. So you were almost getting to that point?
Yeah, I had a kind of an emotional, I guess, awakening in July when I kept just dropping my coffee cups and couldn't control it. Or I would wake up and feel like there was something wrong with me because I couldn't bend my fingers, and my feet were always swollen. And, I have a very loving husband who made a routine to massage my feet because I just could not walk sometimes. And finally I was just like, I need answers. Enough's enough. Someone needs to tell me because there's something going on with me. It can't just, I just kept getting brushed off as, just work harder in the gym. I just get like, just go harder at the gym, more cardio. And even trainers would tell me more cardio, more cardio. And I mean, there was a period of my life when I was going to the gym twice a day, every day, killing myself, not eating. And I did lose weight, but it was not sustainable. And a lot of the symptoms I was experiencing were not getting better.
Oh, man. All right. So we go from there. You find out about the program. And now, obviously, most people, when they find out about something new, you've already worked with a lot of trainers, you've worked with nutritionists and everything like that. And I guess, where were you at before jumping into the program? What were some of the concerns you had or things like that?
My biggest concern was nothing was sustainable. Like, I would go to the extremes. When I came to you, I was already measuring my food, counting my macros, but still was not getting results. And it just got to a point where I kept gaining weight no matter what I do. And when I came to you, I was honestly down to one meal a day. And I was just trying to be sustained on that. And so I was just I was a hot mess when I showed up. I was like basically counting my macros, going off of all the lessons. And I realized in the end that these people were not giving advice or gearing towards somebody with PCOS in mind. And so that's when I started looking for a very specific targeted group of someone who can help me that could specialize in PCOS.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And I mean, those are some serious concerns, especially when you're already counting your macros and you're like, okay, so is something else going to work for me? Right.
Mhm.
I totally understand that. So what was your experience like? So going through the program, talk to us about what you actually experienced.
Well, first, my first shocker was how easy it was. I think that was the biggest shocker, where it was, do not just cut everything out. You're supposed to have multiple meals a day. Um, I, I I had a hard time adding lunch in because that was something I was not used to. I didn't really eat till the evening time, and also just having more flexibility. And I was really scared because my first reaction is, I'm already so strict. What happens when I add this more flexibility? That's just going to make me gain the weight. So, and then as well as the workouts were a lot more targeted, a lot shorter. And I wasn't in the gym for an hour doing cardio every day or twice a day. So it was a huge adjustment and scary. But once I started doing it and it started working, then I realized there's something here. And one of my biggest surprises in the program was all the ways that you targeted weight loss. It wasn't just the physical working out, it was the eating, it was the mental, it was strategizing, it was creating priorities. And so there were so many different approaches to the program that I did not expect. And a big chunk of the program was getting through the mental parts. And I mean, that it was life changing, those parts. And those were probably the most important parts. And that's really I feel like makes this sustainable long term.
Awesome. So with that, what kind of, is there one, and this is my question kind of out of the blue a little bit, but is there one thing that you would say was like, that this was a really important thing to me?
In the program, I am very proud of, and this might be kind of off the wall too, but I'm very proud of now I cook. I did not cook before. And I was intimidated by cooking. And everyone knew that they were not coming to my house for a dinner party because the pasta was going to be slimy and it's just not going to work out. So I took a lot of your suggestions and recipes, as well as started now understanding I had PCOS, was able to start finding more targeted meals that were more friendly for insulin resistance. And with your guidance that you provided me on what to eat, I was able to finally start tackling that huge obstacle that I was afraid of, which was cooking. And now I cook every single night. I make the time to do it and I enjoy doing it. It's kind of like my peaceful place. And I make pretty much everything homemade now. And if you told me that 6 months ago, I would laugh, because 6 months ago, I would have said, I have no time for cooking. I have no time to make things homemade. I'm a busy lady. I run a nonprofit. I work a full-time job, and I do some part-time contract work for another company. I mean, who has time for cooking? But I made time, and you taught me how to do that. You taught me how to prioritize myself first. And so I think that is the biggest thing in this program that was a surprise and a life-changing, is prioritizing myself first. And that started bleeding into my family, where now we have such a better family dynamic, and we eat dinner around the table every night. That's something that we never did before. We were always on the go. And we now have such a stronger family dynamic, and we are able to have deeper conversations around the dinner table. And that's something that you've given to us, because I changed my life, and it kind of trickled down to everybody around me too.
That is awesome. That is so cool. That actually gets me more excited than everything else we've talked about. That is amazing. All right. So now, with everything that you've been doing, so I mean, we talked about the family, we've talked about everything else that you've kind of experienced with that, but I guess results-wise, what kind of results did you see in the program?
Yeah, so I've lost around 56 pounds. And then as far as inches, I couldn't tell you the exact inches. But every week I was losing inches off my waist and overall body. So, but as far as results, beyond the actual pounds and weight loss, I feel like a completely different person. Like I'm just completely different than I was 6 months ago. And it's yes, partially confidence. I have more confidence, but I also feel more balanced as a person. I feel like I can handle my day-to-day in an organized fashion. I feel like every days aren't really getting past me in a way. I feel like I'm in control of when I'm working out, when I'm doing my work. And I've already seen it bleed into my career as well. I have made so much career progression in the last 6 months, and that more than I have in the last 5 years at my company that I work for. And so it's bled over into all parts of my life. And I feel like the weight loss is just a micro part of the life changes, because I have more weight to lose and it's sustainable, and I'm just going to keep going with my fitness journey from here on.
That's awesome. So you're like the epitome of everything I want from this program. Is it not just that you're, skinnier and the scale's lighter, things like that, but you're actually experiencing more productivity in your life. You're feeling better, you're accomplishing more, you're closer with your family. I think that's awesome. That is so cool. So last question for you. If someone who is watching this, if they're just like, okay, I'm considering jumping into the program, but I'm scared, what would you tell them?
I was scared too. I mean, it's scary signing up for a random program online. I have, especially in a world where people get scammed, and especially in a world where I've already been to several nutritionists and had no luck. But I have to say that this is the only program I still to this day have come across or seen that is targeted for PCOS or for insulin resistance. It's the only program where I've had someone who has said it's okay if you have an off day, it's okay if you don't make it for your workout that day. Life happens. Let's worry about tomorrow. And so it works. And so all I can say is, if you just take a chance, but you have to follow the program. You have to make the effort. And that's the biggest thing, is being ready to make that change yourself, because it starts inside. And so that's what I would say to somebody starting the program. If they're really wanting a change, it's now's better than ever, because this program helps get your life on track, your health on track, you name it. I mean, it's anything and everything, but you have to be ready to work on those things.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think that's great advice. Thank you for sharing your story with us, and hopefully it helps somebody. But again, thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
Okay.